Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Elite Healers Massage Therapy on YouTube, featuring myself, Adam Cardona. In today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at New York City during the past year, featuring the pandemic of 2020, how it affected New York, Manhattan, and my massage therapy practice overall, from my perspective, of course. Frankly, I like talking about New York City, and I know some of you sure like to hear about the city of New York. I think there's just a mystique to it. I'm going to set up a playlist that talks about every single episode about features New York City because it's something I like, and this is the third video I've done talking about New York, and I know it's not going to be my last. So one of the things that I believe, just as a practice that everyone should do, is at the end of the year you should reflect on the past and learn from your mistakes, because if you don't learn from your mistakes, how can you improve for the future? Reflecting on each year has been something I've been personally practicing since about the year 2006. I wasn't doing my whole life, but I learned it from a Japanese term called Shiwatsu, right? Which basically translates into running into the new year or running with a mentor. This concept basically is to reflect on the end of the year, finish up any goals that you have, and then resting so you can start the new year in January 1st, fresh as possible. I saw this as a great contrast compared to drinking the New Year's Eve and starting the new year with a hangover like I grew up watching people do. I love this concept because it's just the way to embark on a new adventure. Rested, ready to go, your hit points are filled, your magic points are filled, and you're ready for that adventure. Better than starting the year weak and worn out, right? So in the prior 11 months, I reflected, I did my personal stuff, and I'm not going to talk to you too much about the personal things I learned. I'm just going to keep it very specific to Elite Healers Massage Therapy in New York City and the pandemic. Anyway, we're going to talk about all that. I know the pandemic's not done, but we're going to reflect because it's just the end of the year. We're going to start on new times. And even though there might have been a rough start to January, there's plenty of year left, and we're going to turn that around, right? So I basically rested. I'm ready. I'm fresh to tackle that year, and I hope a lot of you are as well. Now, before we talk about that, if you are excited to hear about this story, then what I want you to do is firmly press down on that like button, as it would mean a lot to me. I appreciate each and every one of your likes. Oh, and thank you for helping me break a new record between the 4th and 6th of January, because on the 6th, I got more than 800 likes on the first 48 hours of the How to Cool Down video that came out on the 4th of this month. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you, because you guys helped me break a record that I wasn't even expecting to break, and it was just amazing because normally I only get about 200 to 250 likes in the first 48 hours. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and let's continue setting growth records on this channel in 2021. One thing though, make sure you subscribe so that way you can follow along, you can get an alert when new videos come out. In order to begin the story, let's go back to January of last year in our minds. 2020, it started with the flow and the energy of 2019. Everything was running smoothly. People commuted on public transportation to work, and New York City was bustling with business. And there seemed to be no problem with the virus that was spreading in China at that moment. During January and February, people were concerned but not convinced the disease would travel to the United States because we've prevented other things in the past. So it was business as usual. Rents were at an all-time high, while offices and restaurants were booming with business. No one saw what was about to come. I mean, seriously, we might have had attacks on our soil, terrorist attacks in the past, but no one expected the pandemic to hit. As the first 2 months ended and we began to enter March, that's when the writing really became apparent, and that the virus was coming and a shutdown was imminent. That was when things really started to change in New York City, because New York was getting ready to attempt to flatten the curve. As we approached those final days of February, I decided to work as hard as I could, being available and seeing as many clients as I could, while making preparations for what would probably be a shutdown, to raise a little extra cash for that potential time off. Now, I personally know I had to prepare to close my massage therapy clinic only after opening it for 1 year. So it was a little bit depressing. I worked extra hard for 5 years just to open it. So, it got a little scary. but honestly, everyone's going to feel fear when something that they never had taken on hits them, right? And you can only do your best, so you got to work through your problems. But honestly, I just put my head down and I worked. I used my willpower to fight the biggest challenge of my lifetime, because no one can make preparations for the biggest challenge of your life. You just have to be ready for it. I mean, I wasn't, the only one preparing for what was to come. And the extra time that I was open, a lot of clients came in just to get in as many massages as they could. I felt like there was an understanding that everyone knew that there would probably be around 3 to 4 weeks of no massage therapy at a point coming soon. So that's why they got it in. Now, one of the things is with the virus of 2020, no one knew how long they would actually have to stay at home and what would happen over those next few months. Now, right around St. Patrick's Day, Governor Cuomo issued shutdown orders for New York City. I think it might have been the Monday, the 16th of that month, but I don't remember exactly. But I do remember seeing things unfolding in a certain way that I decided to shut down the clinic about 1 week prior to those stay-at-home orders that Governor Cuomo officially had ordered. I did this because I read from professional massage therapy organizations and other small local authorities that it'd be advisable to start even before the governor had made it official, just to flatten the curve. So, I did what I had to do ahead of the mandated orders. Like I said, I only thought it was going to be around 3 to 4 weeks, even with me closing a little bit earlier, but it was much longer than that, to my surprise. The first few weeks of the shutdown of New York were shocking, to say the least. And I took the first 2 weeks as an opportunity to rest and try to figure out what to do next. I, felt the fear of uncertainty just like anybody else, but I remained hopeful in my heart. With the extra time, I decided to attempt to work on a close relationship. I also started to read books on Buddhism, mindset, and other helpful books. And one of those books would, inspire me to create this Elite Healers massage therapy channel. I mean, to be honest with you, I've always wanted to create a YouTube channel. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but this was the perfect time to start that endeavor now that I realized it should be Elite Healers. In the first few weeks, people were handling that pandemic in really good spirits. They would cheer for the doctors around 7 p.m. And sometimes someone with an awesome sound system would play happy music, whether it was Frank Sinatra or something else that was loud enough for people to hear it. I just liked it when they were playing New York, New York in the streets. People were cheering until like the summer and when the Black Lives Matter protests and things started to change a little bit more. It just wasn't that. I just remember that being one of the big things that started what I would call the second half of the pandemic in New York City. Hospitals were emptier, but the serious times weighed down upon us, and it was a different time at that point. I think it was partly due to the protests, but also I am certain that it was the stay-at-home orders coupled with a lack of support from our government. Life in New York, it pushed on, though with a reduced population and a new tone. As the weeks passed, every time it looked like we were getting close to reopening, it got pushed back by a few weeks thanks to the orders of Governor Cuomo. Pushing the date of reopening further down the road went like this for weeks at a time until late June when businesses began to start opening up. I personally believe this is partly what contributed to the frustration in New York City. Massage therapy services were set for phase 2, so as that reopening date got closer, I began to work with lawyers and other professionals to make sure that the clinic was fully optimized to be as safe as possible. So it was like updated cleaning supplies, contact tracing system, medical air purifier, hand sanitizing stations, and so much more to make it one of the cleanest places to get massage therapy in New York City. At first, I was only seeing people 4 days a week, but I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of people actually were scheduled in the calendar than I initially had thought. And the extra time that I had from only working 4 days a week would allow me to grow with video, figure out the process, and improve the quality of my content. Also, one of the things that this happened is it caused me to build a small team to help with the video creation process. By October, the clinic expanded to 5 days a week, being open with the help of a second massage therapist. Then around the same time in October, the pandemic numbers started to increase, and ironically, less appointments were scheduled. And at the same time, things became a bit of a roller coaster in the city overall. The times had become uncertain for just about everybody in the city. And this is certainly why, if you can help us out at this time, please donate to our PayPal page or Patreon if you want to get cool merchandise after a few months of donating at a certain level tier, right? I mean, it would help me and the team so much, and we'd appreciate it. Now, getting back to it, the streets of New York stores started to close down, and it felt like the main shopping areas would have a few stores closed down on the block, those main avenues where you find a whole bunch of stores. It's kind of a little depressing, right? It felt like at the first of the month, every month, more stores closed down. It's still even kind of trending in that direction. And it just makes the city look more and more visibly empty. So I think a lot of people have left the city at least until the flu season has come to a close and the vaccine gets out there. Funny thing I hear in New York City is that some landlords are keeping their places still completely filled by renegotiating the rent with their tenants and providing lower rent for incoming tenants. After a bit of research, I heard that rents in New York City dropped by 15% overall, but when I talk to people on the ground, it's more like 25 to 30% in those apartments because some landlords are willing to renegotiate their rent while others are not, and basically due to the law of averages, it comes out to about 15%. Those landlords rather take the loss, and honestly, it's hurting people and stores, and it's forcing those people out of their homes. And I really don't think people should be moving during a pandemic. You know, no one should have to move or face homelessness. Right now, people really just need to get paid to stay in their homes. Personally, I wish that the government would have fought harder to keep New Yorkers in their homes and small businesses funded, so that way, you know, people would have more jobs, there'd be less job losses, and people would be safe and at home. Listen, you know, I know it's been really rough for some people in this city. I've seen it all around, and in terms of population, it's also a lot emptier here. So, you know, I think this has become one of the more somber times in New York City during this whole pandemic, is like everything from like November on. And, you know, things will change. I know this for sure. 2020 might have started rough because we're leaving the gravity of 2020. And when you break through the gravity, it takes a little bit of time before you get into zero G's where, you know, your environment changes. So we're just watch by like February, it's gonna start to feel like a different year. Just like when you looked at how the beginning of last year, the pandemic really hit in March. So that 2020 feel didn't happen till, you know, about the third month of the year. All right, so now that we've talked about all that heavy stuff, let's just end this video on a higher note. I want to actually take a moment to say thank you to all the individuals who were there for me as a person during 2020. I needed that support, you know, whether it was someone to talk to, someone that gave me great advice or helping me out, just being a friend, whatever, going for drinks, whatever it was that, you know, just helped me out mentally, emotionally. I appreciate it, and it's not going to be forgotten. I believe everyone needs someone in their support network, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, or a talk therapist. Hell, you know, you can even social distance from that support network, but you should still utilize your support network. We're social creatures, and we have to connect with others to help our mental health, even during the roughest times, especially during the roughest of times. So, you know, get that support in. Now, one thing is I appreciate also anybody who's helped me or Elite Healers out financially, and that I really sincerely appreciate from the bottom of my heart. It made the year a little bit easier, and I don't know if I could have made it through the year without you, so I appreciate that. Remember, everyone, be good to those in your community because it is a symbiotic relationship. It's like kind of the reason I give free content. You want to help out others, you know, you want to support in the ways that you can, and we'll get through times together. Now, speaking of getting through times together, if you can, you know, help keep the clinic open and help us make new videos by donating to our PayPal or our Patreon account. You know, you'll get the free merch with Patreon, but if you just want to make a donation, it would be great because it could help us get through the winter. And if not, it's going to be reinvested into creating more videos and higher quality videos on this channel. So whether it's 27 dollars, $2 or $2,000. Donate whatever you can to help us out during these dark times, because I'm going to keep the videos coming, and that's one thing I can sincerely promise you. And don't forget, if you're already up to this point of the video, you should by now have already pressed down on that like button. Share this with your friends so we can grow, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you want to watch the New York City video playlist, then it's a great time to start it up since I made it appear on that part of the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.